Welcome back to Major Intonio's presentation of 13 Days, The Chronicle of an Escape from a German Prison, by John Caunter. Chapter 9, Crossing the River Hunt and the Town of Dogs.
After the morning's rest in the copse and the great increase in warmth due to the sun, which soon caused us to feel very thirsty, we thought that a move during the afternoon would not be too risky, as the country was of a very wild, deserted appearance hereabouts, and our need of water was a matter to be dealt with as soon as possible. Accordingly, at 3 p.m., we moved out of our hiding place and very soon found a pump by a cowshed in a field. We drank and filled up our water bottles and then hid again in a wood close by. We were much worried while drawing water by a large herd of cows. They must have been very thirsty, as they crowded round us and whenever we moved towards them would gallop off for a few yards and then return. We were afraid lest this behavior on their part had been seen and would cause comment, or even worse, among any farm people who might be within view of the shed. While lying hidden in the wood, the sound of axes being used near us came to our ears. This was not very disturbing, though, and we managed to pass a peaceful evening talking in the sunlight. Quite a restful feeling stole over one. Life for the moment was not the strenuous thing it had been for so many days. The songs of birds and the buzzing of insects combined to lend a peaceful atmosphere to the surroundings. A deer appeared from the interior of the wood and quietly went about its feeding as if we did not exist. If only one could have known that the future was to be favorable and that success was to crown our effort, it would have been even extremely enjoyable in that wood. But misgivings and forebodings of evil were natural to us, and robbed us of the full amount of pleasure we might otherwise have enjoyed in such a pleasant entourage. In the evening, clouds began to drift up, and eventually a slight drizzle began to descend, but not sufficiently copious to make us miserable. At 10 p.m., we began our night's march and worked forward to the western edge of the wood. From here, we were able to look out over a wide stretch of pasture and cornland. In the distance, a railway line crossed the field of vision. A beautiful wild sunset cast a golden light on the countryside. A road ran close by the wood, and we waited till the light should die in the sky before crossing it. At last we were well away, and reached the railway we had previously seen, which we crossed a moment before 2 trains rumbled past. One of these was a heavily laden munition train, the other much lighter. After leaving the railway, we took to a lane which eventually brought us out into the main road. Just before debouching onto this, Fox and I both heard a bicycle coming along the road, and we dived into the long grass at the side of the road. Blank, however, did not hear it and blundered straight into the cyclist, a woman, before he could stop. Fortunately, his Guten Abend was sufficiently German to pass, and the cyclist continued her way after answering him with the same words. We caught him up some 10 minutes later, and then cut across country. A farm loomed up in front of us, and we bore to one side of it, but not before the ubiquitous dog made the night hideous with its barking, so we passed on with as little noise as possible. Soon after this, a stream barred our way. A rapid search for a bridge did not bring one to light, so there was nothing for it but to get wet. However, Fox had a plan whereby 2 of us might be saved a wetting. He, being the heaviest, was to strip and stand in the middle of the stream while we crossed over, using his shoulders as a stepping stone. When he got into the stream, he found the bottom very muddy, and the water came up to his chest. I was to try the stunt first. All the food bags, etc., were carried across, and then Fox stood ready to do his part. Stepping well out from the bank and placing one foot on his shoulder, I reached down until I could catch hold of his hands and waited for his signal. At the word, I sprang, he simultaneously throwing me, and before I had time to realize anything, I found myself rolling over and over on the other side. The timing had been perfect, and I had landed completely dry. Blank was also got across successfully, and then the 2 of us pulled Fox out. But not without an effort, as one of his feet had got well embedded in the mud. He told us then that a large stone had prevented the other from getting similarly stuck. Rapid marching was the order after this episode, and we covered a great distance in an extraordinarily short space of time. We had omitted to fill our water bottles at the last stream, and this burst of speed soon made us painfully aware of it. Finally, we found some appalling water in a ditch at the roadside, but only by digging a hole in the mud could sufficient be got to fill a water bottle. This water was naturally very muddy and full of those little beetle things that rush about the surface of stagnant pools. Water boatmen, I think they are called. I know I felt them running about the inside of my mouth when I drank. Wednesday, 27th June. We were now approaching the Hunt River. This river is not very large, but is sufficiently formidable to require swimming if no bridge or boat is used. Therefore, finding on a map that a bridge crossed it at a certain spot miles from anywhere of importance, or anywhere at all for that matter, we had decided that it would in all probability be unguarded. It was clear now that we were getting near this bridge. A dense mist overhung the valley through which the river ran, and made it easier for us to approach. I, having the best colored costume and the lightest footwear, went a few yards ahead of the others to reconnoiter the bridge. Cautiously approaching it, I was delighted to find that no guards were posted there, and we got across without difficulty. A few miles further on, our westerly line would bring us to a small country town, which must be nameless. The country in this district was covered with corn, and knowing that a detour through these cornfields to avoid the town would mean an hour or more of delay, we decided to run the risk and walk through the streets of the town itself. All went well at first. The town seemed absolutely deserted, and we crept along in the shadows where practicable, choosing the dusty gutters and grassy patches at the side of the road in order to make as little noise as possible. We reached a kind of square towards the center of the town, when Blank stumbled over a cobblestone, a not unusual thing for him to do, which called forth various cryptic whispers from Fox. At that moment, out of a dark shadow on the right of the road, a great dog slowly emerged. With hackles bristling and teeth bared, he approached us, emitting savage growls. The only thing to be done was to walk straight past him, making no noise. This we did, passing within 2 yards of the beast. It seemed to scare him, for he stopped, and when we had got well past, began barking furiously. Then it was that we discovered that the place was stiff with dogs. The din made by their combined barking was absolutely awe-inspiring. Every dark corner seemed to contain a dog. Shapes flitted about near us, and one got the impression that they were collecting for a combined attack. It was no use going quietly now, so we put on speed and rushed through the place. Nobody came out into the streets, however, but the blinds over a lighted window were pulled aside, disclosing a face which peered out into the darkness at us. After 10 minutes of apprehension, we gained the outskirts of the town, where the last of our doggy foes stood to meet us right in the center of the road. He was a large, bristly animal and had a particularly nasty note in his growl. We adopted the same procedure with him, and after waiting till we were almost on top of him, he turned tail and fled. We were clear of that town now, but vowed never again to run such a risk. My experience of German dogs at night, by no means slight, causes me to think that they bark so much and so often, generally at nothing, that their owners take absolutely no notice of them. It is a case of wolf, wolf in real life. Of course, the tired-out state of an overworked and insufficiently fed population must make rising in the small hours of the night to see what the dog is barking about even less popular than is usually the case. Anyway, we profited. Leaving the vicinity of the town at the same great speed for fear of pursuit, we soon placed several miles between the scene of this, our latest fright, and the wooded country we now struck. It had become light by now, so we had to search for a hiding place at once. This we found in a hollow filled with undergrowth, an offshoot of a wood surrounded by corn and potato fields. We were very tired, but quite pleased with our progress, as we must have done well over 20 miles from the time we began our march at 10 p.m. A day of sun and warmth made the drying of clothes, socks, and boots an easy matter.
This concludes today's reading of 13 Days, The Chronicle of an Escape from a German Prison, by John Caunter. Join us also the day after tomorrow for the subsequent part. Subscribe to Major Intonio's channel. Thank you for listening, and so long.